So, bro, there's one question that I want to ask you, which is on everyone's lips, man. Is rent-to-rent passive income? I think that answers.
Yeah.
I think that answers that question, man.
Yeah, probably.
How would you reply to someone that says, "Well, guys, I want a passive income from property. I want a passive income from rent to rent"? What would you tell them?
Well, I would tell them to buy a HMO and give it to a rent-to-renter basically, because then it is going to be passive.
Yeah. Hey, what is good? Thank you guys for tuning in. My name's Gov, and welcome to another episode of the Property Newbie podcast. On this week's show, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Attila Rizo, a Manchester-based property investor who managed to use a rent-to-rent strategy to help him obtain 2 rent-to-rent HMOs. We sat down and we discussed everything from his initial move to the UK back in 2014, which was driven primarily by his love of Manchester United Football Club, everything from how he's changed as an individual in terms of his personal growth and his self-development, right through to the struggles that he's had in his property journey, and hints and tips that he can give to newbies that are just starting out, who are looking to pursue the rent-to-rent strategy and are looking for their first rent-to-rent. As always, if you enjoy the show, please be sure to like, please be sure to subscribe and turn on those bell notifications for more videos like this. And finally, if you want to listen to the podcast on the go, it's available on Apple Podcasts, Podbean and Spotify, all of which are available to download. But enough about that. Let's get into the show. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. All right, so we are live in 3, 2, 1. Attila, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
I see you trying really hard not to smile right now.
Yeah, always.
Try not to break character, my bro.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for taking the time to come down, man. I've been itching, as always, to get you on, man. Obviously, we've known each other for about, a year or so now? Obviously, I've followed your journey, you followed mine. We've both had interesting paths, but yours especially interesting because there's going to be one question that's on everyone's mind, and we're going to save that towards the end of it.
Yeah, I know what it is.
And and it's your love for a certain type of person, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I can't wait for that, but yeah, I'm telling you, it's going to be worth looking forward to. So, as always, Attila, obviously I've known you from sort of like Facebook. We've met up a couple of times. Obviously, Manchester we won't talk about. We'll keep that in the archives, man. Izzy knows what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always take it with the guests right back to the beginning, and just get to know them a little bit better. So take me all the way back, bro. Take me all the way back to what you were like as a kid in your younger years, and just give everyone a bit of an insight as to a young Attila growing up, man.
All right. Well, it wasn't anything special. I was living in Hungary until 2014. So when growing up, I was just a normal kid, I was interested in football. I was interested in watching films. I was not interested in school at all. I was kind of lazy. I don't know what else to say. I used to drink a lot at the weekends. That was like a weekend routine,
Yeah.
Other than that, really not much. Just hanging out with friends.
Yeah.
After school.
So you said you moved from Hungary to the UK.
Yeah.
Was that in 2014 as well? What was that transitional period like? And what made you want to move to the UK out of like all the countries in the world? Why was it the UK that appealed to you the most?
United.
Hey!
Yeah, because I've been a United fan for 19 years or something like that. So some time now. I came to Manchester in 2012 for just a United game. And I loved it so much that I was thinking that it would be so much easier if I lived in Manchester, because I could just go to the games all the time. So that was it basically. That's when I made my decision, and a year and a half later, then I finally moved.
Yeah, I love that, man. Passion for football, bro, drove you to this country, man. And to be fair, in terms of United, you've been going pretty much week in, week out, innit? To most games. You're like a season ticket holder as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I didn't miss too many games.
How have you been found football in lockdown, by the way?
It's not the best. No, it's really not, especially because I live alone. I didn't really even speak to anyone in person for the first couple of weeks during lockdown. So I like being alone and everything, but that was just a bit too much even for me,
It's a bit tough when the only people you speak to are like the people that drop off your shopping or the postman.
And it's basically just a thanks and that's it, you know. So it's not even a real talk, you know. It's not a conversation. So
now we'll get onto lockdown in a bit, because that in itself has just been a whole just unbelievable like 2020 so far, and obviously in terms of like business and stuff, we'll get onto how the sort of the virus has impacted all of that. But your initial move to the UK, how did you find it sort of like settling in? Did you have like friends and family already here, or was it just a case of like pick up your bags, I'm just gonna start a new life in the UK?
Well, I was kind of lucky, and that's why I moved, because I had a friend living here already, quite close to Old Trafford anyway.
Okay.
So he basically invited me to live here if I wanted to, because he knew that I was a United fan, and he just asked me if I was interested, and I was thinking about it for like one day, and then just booked the ticket basically.
Yeah.
So it was really easy, because I had a friend already here who helped me with everything, you know, NI number, things like that.
Yeah.
And I also had a place to live from the start, so I didn't even have to look.
Oh, that's amazing. It's mad how like your love for United, just everything just ties up. Where does your mate live? Oh, he lives close to Old Trafford.
Yeah.
It's just like it was almost meant to be, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
Just out of like curiosity, what's the culture like in Hungary in terms of like business, education, entrepreneurship? Because obviously, and we'll get onto a little bit about that. That's a path that you've chosen, obviously, in terms of like your property and stuff, and we'll talk a little bit more detail about that. But what's the culture like back home? Are they very much education oriented? Do they encourage entrepreneurship, or what's it like there?
Well, not at all. I mean, in Hungary, most people, they basically just go to school then, so they could find a normal job, you know. So I think it's very similar to England. From what I have seen. Most people, they are either not interested in being in business, or they are just too scared, and they don't have, well, I don't know how to say it, but it feels like they are just not interested, or they make themselves believe that they are not interested, and they just stick to a job that they don't like anyway. So it's very much the same. Education as well. I think it's just useless, completely useless, to be honest, for years to go to school and then learn nothing about life, you know, or about how to be a business person.
See, I find that quite interesting, in the sense that you could have quite easily got sort of stuck in that culture yourself if you were growing up, but you've gone the exact opposite, in terms of you could have very much thought, right, education, job, and I'll be comfortable, but you've actually just like put all that to one side and said like, yo, you guys are wrong, man, you need to open your eyes, there's more to the world, innit? But have you always had this like entrepreneurial sort of desire or flair, or do you feel like that's just built up over time?
No, not at all. I was always struggling how to find a good job for me that I'm interested in. I was really out of ideas, and I was really struggling, and I felt depressed because of this, because I knew that I should find some job that I want to do, actually, not just, you know, a warehouse job. So it was back in 2016, interestingly, again, thanks to United. I went to the FA Cup final, and the place I lived, I stayed over at a friend of mine. She had this book on her table, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I just picked it up and checked what it is. And I thought that, okay, this might be interesting. So I just ordered it for myself as well. And when I read it, I was like, okay, something is not right. I shouldn't, you know, just exchange my time for money and then not live really the way I want. So ever since then, I was thinking that, you know, it's not for me to just go to work every single day, whether I like it or not, and get some money, but not as much as I actually want, because I didn't feel any freedom in it, you know.
I feel like there, you know, when you read the book, it feels like that tied in a lot of the thoughts and feelings that you already had. But it just, see, Rich Dad Poor Dad is an amazing book in terms of putting things into context in it. It almost feels like you had these feelings, thoughts, or whatever. Maybe you weren't surrounded by the people that shared those, but as soon as you like picked up that book and read it, it confirmed everything you're already thinking, and just took that idea and concept of what money means, how to make it work for you, and also how to make time and the importance of time freedom, and then just really take it to the next level. And we'll go on to how you've done that. But before we get onto that, there's just one thing that I wanted to touch on briefly, and I don't know if this is related to sort of Rich Dad Poor Dad, or whether this is just something that you've always had, especially over the last couple of years. But I noticed a picture on your Facebook wall, which was you haven't drunk any alcohol for the last, I think you said over 1,000 days. You've even got like a running clock, haven't you?
Yeah.
Which is amazing. So talk me back through sort of like how you transitioned from being like going out every weekend, like you said, and just sort of like partying, to the guy that we know now who's so mentally tough, drinks literally nothing but water, won't have a soft drink, eats clean, wakes up early. How did you snap out of, okay, I need to stop partying now and really like push for self-growth, self-development, and really take down like the health route? How did you make that move? How did you make that transition?
Well, there were a couple of signs that showed me that I shouldn't do this. One was when I went to a United game and I was so drunk that they kicked me off after 5 minutes.
No way.
From the game. So I was like, okay, then money well spent. That was not a good experience. And also, it really started when I lost a bet with an R2R friend of mine. So again, it's thanks to United. And the bet was that whoever loses is not supposed to drink alcohol for 30 days. And I lost that bet. So I was just, trying this 30 days without alcohol. This was back in May 2017. So a bit over than 3 years now. And I felt so much better during these 30 days, and I started reading about not drinking alcohol, what are the positive effects, the benefits, that I just enjoyed it, I didn't miss alcohol at all, so it's not that difficult at all. If you don't miss something, if you don't... Well, I know I was addicted to alcohol, to be honest with you, I really was. But I read a really good book that changed my mindset about alcohol and what I eat. So basically, it's very easy when you realize that you are not giving up on something, when you are not making a sacrifice by not drinking, because it doesn't give you anything good. I mean, genuinely good. Because if it does, then you wouldn't want to limit yourself to just 1 pint of drink or something like that. If it was actually good, then you would just drink all the time because it's good. But obviously, you want to limit yourself because it's not good. And when you realize that you're not going to miss out on anything, and your life is going to be even just better, and you can still enjoy life, because life is more about, I don't know, the people, the experiences than alcohol.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just realized that it doesn't give me anything good, and that was just so easy after that.
Yeah, it's mad how like it just started off as a bet. It like literally was like, okay, I bet you can't you can't drink for 30 days, and the fact that you stuck to that bet, because you could have been drinking on the sly if you wanted to. Do you know what I mean? You didn't have to, but then to go from that and realize, well, actually, you know what? I actually do feel better in myself. But then not just that, is not to relapse and go back to that. Like you could have easily gone, right, 30 days are up now. I can't wait to go out on a weekend and sort of like get smashed again and whatever. But you took that and you saw it as a positive, but then you also implemented different things into your life. Like I said, you've cut out soft drinks. You wake up early, so you've got a good routine. You eat clean as well, as you can see, Bo. You've like, from the picture for where you are right now, man. You look like,
well, yeah, I do my best.
Yeah. You trimmed up proper well, man. At the time, if you don't mind me asking you, was there a reason for you drinking? Was it just like, was it a social thing, or was it just like boredom? Or was it like an escape from something, or was it just a case of I've got nothing else to do?
I think it was all of them that you just said, and also football matches. That was always a good excuse.
Yeah.
So I always started my weekend going to the pub before the United game, a couple of hours before. Have at least 7 or 8 beers before the game, and then a couple after.
Yeah.
I still go to the pub before the game, and I just realized that it's. Well, people are just so annoying when they are all drunk around me, except me.
When you're the sober one,
when you are the only sober person in a party or in a pub, you realize that it doesn't look good, and you don't want to be like that. So
yeah, it's hard to be surrounded by people that are on a different level to you in terms of like, they're just, obviously when you drink you get a buzz, but then when you're the sober one and you're looking around going, bloody hell, was I like that?
yeah,
Because
exactly.
I never noticed.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But I love the fact that you still keep your tradition, but obviously you still haven't gone back to like drinking and stuff like that. You'll still go to the pub, you still enjoy the game, and you go to every game you physically can. That's one thing no one will ever be able to tear you away from.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Bringing it back to business, like I said, you kind of touched on it there in terms of how you were feeling regarding sort of like entrepreneurship. You read Rich Dad Poor Dad. Why was it property that was the route that you took and not, I always ask, not like e-commerce or a physical business? Why was it property, and what made you want to get into it? What was the real starting point where you thought, well, actually, you know what, property is a thing that I could actually make some money from and move forward with?
Well, it started quite a long time ago, back in 2009. So
Okay.
11 years now, when I got my first property, which was not a buy to let, it was where I used to live. And I had 2 lodgers back then. 2 friends of mine moved in. So I enjoyed, passive income since 2009. And when I moved to the UK, I also, I still had that property, so I just rented it out altogether. And I was really enjoying, not doing anything, but still making money from it. So I already had good experience with property before I got really started. So probably that's why. I was also looking in other things like buying gold and silver and things like that, but obviously that doesn't give you any cash flow. So
Yeah.
I was just keep looking, and I was thinking, yeah, property makes sense.
Yeah. Nah, I like that. In terms of like buying gold and silver, you're right. It is part of the pillars of growing your wealth anyway. But as you mentioned, it doesn't bring you any cash flow. It's kind of like a long-term sit and hold, isn't it? I like the fact that you clocked onto this idea very early on in terms of getting lodgers in who will pay rent, which makes it passive and nice for you. I'll ask you a question a little later about passive income.
Yeah.
So you started property. So what was your property journey sort of like when you obviously you're in the UK, you're starting out in property? How did you get started, and what was your first initial experiences like starting a property business?
Well, I started a year and a half ago now, at least. Well, end of 2018, First, I was just reading loads of books because I wanted to get familiar with all these strategies because there were so many that it was hard to choose just one.
Yeah.
And I knew that I shouldn't be distracted by all other strategies and just stick to one, at least at the beginning. And rent to rent looked really promising, because you don't have to have loads of cash, which I didn't have anyway. So that was kind of an obvious choice.
Yeah. So was it a case of like you looked at all the strategies and thought, right, okay, from what I have in terms of like money and in terms of like getting into it, rent to rent was the most appealing option. But even within rent to rent, you've still got service accommodation, you've still got HMOs. Obviously, you've gone down the HMO route. How have you found getting your first rent to rent? Because that's obviously that's always the biggest obstacle that people have. So you can read up on property, you can read books, you can watch seminars, you can watch lives, and then all of a sudden you're met with a person or a group of people that will be the bane of your life, which is estate agents.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about estate agents?
Well,
and what have your experiences been like with them?
Well, it's not the best, experience-wise.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some good agents that actually listen to you and they are willing to work with you or help you. They don't really exist in Manchester, unfortunately. I really did have some good experience with agents in Liverpool and Birmingham and Sheffield because when I got started, I was just looking everywhere, basically.
Yeah.
In Manchester, well, now I think that life is just too short to call agents for rent to rent seriously, because they might even listen to you for that couple of minutes speech that you give them, but then they are just so not interested. They either say things that are just simply not true, or they are not open to the idea of rent to rent.
Do you feel like your pitch has like evolved over time? So do you feel like from the first time you phoned, did you feel like you were trying loads of different things and you were still getting knocked back? Or was it a case of, all right, I'll try this, and this is fine. I'm finding a little bit more success with this. Maybe I can try and convince them. Or were there other different tactics that you were trying other than just sort of like ringing agents?
Well, I tried different kind of, strategies for this, different lines when I was calling. But if I just started all over again now, I would just pick up the phone and ask if they do rent-to-rent, because if they do, then they are not going to say no. And if they don't, then there is no point really trying to make them understand,
Yeah.
Because I did find 2 agents that work with me, and they are really nice. So when I call them, I just have to tell them that I'm looking for a property for rent-to-rent. I don't have to say that, company let or management agreement or anything like that, and try to sell them the idea, because they already know.
Is that advice that you'd give to newbies starting out? Because a lot of the times it's always this elaborate pitch on the phone about, okay, guys, you got to say this or you got to do that. But like, you've just learnt one thing, which is just ask them straight, save the time, save the headache. If they understand it, then you're good to move forward. If they don't understand it, then you're going to spend the remaining weeks or months trying to sell the idea to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you feel like they understood what rent to rent specifically was, or did it come under a different name or anything with them? Did they see it as something else? Did they see it as like, okay?
Well, obviously they all told me that it's subletting.
I love that.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
It's a bit of a weird one with agents, because it takes a while to find one, but all you need is one. But then to find one that actually understands what you're talking about when you come to rent is very rare. But at the same time as well, you could go direct to Landlord and sell the idea to them, but then obviously you have a ton of different hoops to go through. Positives of estate agents, obviously they've got a pot of properties that potentially fit your needs. It's just a case of, can you break that initial barrier down? And I think as well, one thing, and I don't know if you agree with me on this, is because so many people are getting into property and want to get into the rent to rent strategy, these guys are getting bombarded with phone calls every day. And I don't know if part of it is, and you guys can let me know in the comments, but I don't know if they're just fed up. So even if you have the best proposal in the world, it's going to be like, okay, this is like my 8th call in the last like 10 minutes. I can't be bothered to hear this out. No, we don't do it. No, you can't speak to the manager. No, we don't do this. Do you feel like that plays a part in it? Or?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there is no way they don't know what rent to rent is. That's what I meant when I said that they don't really tell you the truth,
Yeah.
They are not completely honest with you. There are so many people trying to get rent to rent. I cannot believe that there are still agents who don't know what rent to rent is.
So true.
And I know that some people say that when you call agents for rent to rent, you should explain to them what it is. You should educate them. I know why they are saying this, but I don't agree, because if you think about it, nobody likes to be told what to do or how to do their jobs. So
True.
if some random people just called you and told you how you should do your podcast, for example, you wouldn't really like that person, and you wouldn't be too open to the idea to a random person that you have never met in your life, who just called you and told you how you should do it.
It's true. And I think as well, it depends on who you're speaking to on the phone, because as you mentioned, the first person you're speaking to could be the receptionist, could be someone that started a week ago. If ever you're going to target anyone, just ask the manager or ask someone who's in a position to be able to help you. But as you mentioned, even then, whether they're open to the idea and whether you try and sell them, it just might just eat into time, innit? So advice for newbies, something worth trying out, and you can let us know how much success you have. Just ring them up and say, do you do rent to rent? And let us know, because I'll be honest, I don't know many people that go that direct. I can't even say that I do. I don't say I pitch, but I try and direct the conversation in a way that I want. But as you mentioned, you just end up wasting time. Like, you could be on a call for 5 minutes only to figure out at the end that they're not interested. So I think you have a point, man, in terms of so many people are doing property that, maybe agents do know what rent to rent is. They may not know enough about how it benefits them.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say, that the 2 agents that I work with, I told them that there are so many agents who don't like this idea of rent to rent, or they just tell me no all the time. And I asked them if they have any idea why is that. And they said that it's because some agents don't understand it. I mean, they have probably heard about rent to rent, but they still don't understand the basic of it, how it all works. And also, one agent also told me that some agents don't even understand the HMO. So
How are you supposed to win with that?
Yeah, exactly. And these are not my words, these are from an agent.
So in terms of like properties and stuff right now, so you went down the HMO route, and obviously I've been following you on Facebook, and as I'm sure a bunch of other newbies have, you're doing all right, man. You're doing well, so congratulations to you on that front.
Thanks.
How have you found your first like couple of deals? How have you found sort of like managing it? How have you found the process? Have there been any positives, any negatives? Tell us about all of it, man. How have you found it?
All right. So right now I have 2 6-bed HMOs, both of them from the same agency. So as I said, I did find an agent that is actually willing to work with me, and they are really nice. About management, it's not that difficult after you have everything ready. I mean, when you refurbish the property, which I had to do the first one, and after furnish it and get everything ready, do the right pictures, to make them look nice. And when you have all the tenants in, well, it just runs itself, kind of. Obviously, you always have some random phone calls from the tenants for minor issues, but luckily I haven't had anything big problem,
Have you had any like trouble tenants? Anyone that's caused you any grief or anything like dodgy that's happened? I don't know, like people doing drugs or like throwing parties or I don't know, turning it into, I don't know, a little nightclub or something.
Well, with this one, actually, I have been really lucky because I haven't had any problems with the tenants themselves.
Yeah.
So, yeah, with this one, I have been lucky. Unlike with calling agents or finding deals. When it comes to my tenants, so far it has been easy. Obviously, it's not always going to be the same because when I have more tenants, I have more potential problems. But so far it's easy.
One thing that I noticed with yourself though, you build really good like personal relationships with your landlords. So they've got no hesitation in if they ever come across any more deals, which I'm sure they will because you spoke about one or two of them on your live, is that they will happily like hand them over to you because you build that trust with them. For any newbies that are watching this, what advice can you give when they do get their first deal to really build a good solid foundation with the landlord? So that if they do come across any other properties in the future, you're the first name that they think of.
Yeah, that was kind of unintentional. I wasn't planning to build a good relationship with them. It just kind of happened. Because with the first one, I just sent an email to the agency with the before-after pictures that I asked them to forward it to the landlord. I was only thinking that, landlord might be interested in seeing how it is. Because after all, it's his property, so why not? So after 2 weeks, he called me and he said that he was really impressed with the work I have done in his property. Especially because it needed some small refurbishments, new carpets and painting.
One thing that I noticed that you did, which really caught my eye, is you actually got an interior designer, didn't you?
Yeah.
For your latest one, the pictures look phenomenal. For anyone that hasn't seen it, I'll put a link to obviously your Facebook and stuff in the description. But it looks beautiful. Do you feel like having that interior designer there really makes a difference in terms of the quality of the photos that you take out, in terms of proof of work as well? So when you go to show someone else, like, look, this is what I transformed the house into. And also in terms of like filling rooms, do you feel like it's had a positive impact in that respect?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially when it comes to building a good relationship with the landlord, because when you just show them these pictures, they really are impressed because these photos, these rooms, they do stand out. I'm not saying because these are mine, but they're really nice. They are really nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, it all comes down to the interior designer. So that was one of my best investments.
What made you go down that route though? Because it's not something that's always obvious. And like I said, you only got them in recently. What made you think, right, you know what, for this one, I'm going to get an interior designer in to do this properly? What made you what was that switch in your mind that said, right, you know what, I've got to get an interior designer and do it?
Well, I did it with the previous one as well. That's why the landlord called me because, well, I always knew that I'm not good at interior designing, so why bother,
Yeah.
Especially if I spend a couple of thousand on the property to do it up and furnish it, I might as well just use an interior designer as well to make it look as nice as possible.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's what everyone should do with their first property, get before after pictures and send them to the landlord.
Nah, that's brilliant. How much is that in terms of like an additional cost? So if anyone that's watching this and then they're on a really strict budget and they're sort of like on the fence as to whether to spend it on an interior designer, does it cost a lot to get one in?
It depends on how many rooms you have. It also depends, I think to some extent it depends on location, because my designer lives in London. So she had to came from London. She also sources furnitures for cheaper than you might find them. So she actually saves you some money. She also sources all the things, accessories, photos on the wall, everything. If you want, you could buy them yourself, but
so literally just the full package.
Yeah, exactly.
Furniture, pictures, and you get her skills as well.
Yeah, it depends on what you want. I mean, you could get all these things for yourself and then just use her to make the property look nice.
True.
So the price depends on all these things. So I cannot really put a price on it because...
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, your return's infinite. Like, if you think about it, like, whilst you've paid initially, I mean, to have those pictures, you can always use that as evidence for anything moving forward, you know what I mean? And like I said, it's a phenomenal job as well. In terms of everyone knows what's going on right now, we got the face masks out, we've got obviously the pandemic and stuff like that. How has that affected your HMO business specifically? So for anyone that hasn't watched, had Adam on the show last week, who runs a serviced accommodation business. And obviously serviced accommodation, obviously again, one of the hardest hitting industries along with hotels, leisure. How has it impacted HMOs and specifically yours? Has it been difficult, or have you been all right in terms of like filling the rooms and not having too many people leave?
Well, I guess it could have been worse, could have been better. I still have one empty room in one of my HMOs since end of February, which is quite a long time now. Only one of my tenants lost her job because of this, but she's back now, so that's fine as well. Yeah, it affected it in a bad way, definitely. Not as much as serviced accommodation, obviously, but there are not as many people are interested in rooms as before lockdown, you know.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, loads of people lost their jobs, or they are just on 80% of their normal money. So not as many people want to move now as they wanted before.
Has that made you have to be more competitive with your prices because people are on 80% of their wages, or have you priced it exactly the same? And if people want the room, they can take the room, because you're obviously confident in how good your rooms are. And plus your HMOs, from what I know, are located in a good location as well, aren't they?
Well, I don't really want to go for cheaper options just to fill the rooms, because I still want quality tenants.
True.
So I would rather have empty rooms for a couple of more weeks than just rent it out for anyone who wants it, you know, for a cheaper price.
Nah, that's true. As you said, man, you spent time doing your property up. It's a good standard, and like I said, you want a good standard of tenants in there as well, man. So fair play to you. In terms of newbies that might be watching this, that have got HMOs or potentially going to be looking at getting HMOs in the future, what tactics do you use to get your rooms filled up? So have you got like a step-by-step guide that you use to get your HMOs and your rooms filled, or?
Well, so far basically just the obvious ones: spare room, Gumtree, and Facebook Marketplace. And I also message people on spare room who might just miss my ad. Just to make sure that, you know, they know that I have some. So I just message them one by one, telling them that, you know, I have a room available immediately, all bills included, fully furnished, things like that. And if you are interested, let me know. And that's how I got some viewings as well.
So literally just go in direct.
Yeah. So don't just wait, you know, until people message you.
Be a bit proactive.
Message people, yeah.
You found like that's been the best way to get your rooms filled in terms of like just straight spare room, Gumtree, open rent. Is it most of your rooms get filled by that, or have you had to use any other tactics to?
Well, so far I think it's just from spare room and Facebook.
Okay.
Only, probably.
Okay. Probably helps as well when you've got fantastic photos.
Yeah, definitely.
And gorgeous rooms. Do you know what I mean? I've got a question that's come in, and this is a fantastic question, something which I can kind of semi-relate to, but I would love to know your views and opinions on this. So one thing that I noticed, and a lot of people noticed, because we saw the celebrationary pose and along with you smiling, is that recently you quit your job,
Yeah.
which is amazing. Congratulations on that front.
Thanks.
Was this a calculated move? So was it like something that you were building up to, or was it just a case of, right, you know what, in a position that I want to quit and I want to make this work? What was your sort of like mindset behind quitting?
Well, it wasn't planned at all.
It wasn't planned,
No, not at all.
just spontaneous.
Yeah, so when lockdown happened, like a week after that, the agency called me and told me that they cannot keep me there anymore at my job because I was just an agency worker. I didn't have a contract. So they told me that they couldn't keep me. So that was at the end of March. So in April, I was just waiting for something to happen. May, I started calling agencies if they have any work, any job for me. And then I was like, okay, I can actually quit now. So, so I was in a position where I could, at least for a couple of months, I can quit. Hopefully I will never have to go back.
Yeah. So was it a case of like you kind of like directed down that decision? Because obviously like agency had no work. Obviously you had this property stuff that you're doing on the side in terms of like your HMOs and stuff. Was it just like, okay, you know what, I'm just going to make this property, the HMO journey strategy work for me?
Yeah, kind of. But also in June, a couple of agencies started messaging me or calling me that they have work available.
Did they?
But I was then getting busy with the HMO that I got now. And I was like, okay, I could go to work today, but maybe I couldn't go the day after because I have to go to Bolton to do the things in my HMO. And there is no point in working one day and then not working 4 days after because I'm busy with, property. So
yeah, you feel good now that you quit.
Well,
What's the feeling like? What does it feel like for you?
It's still strange because I still have to make it work,
Yeah.
I have to fill all my rooms and I have to get more properties to be actually financially free.
It is a very funny feeling in the sense that you almost feel like a weight's been lifted off your shoulders because you don't have to go to work because you're not stuck to this routine of 9 to 5. But at the same time, it's also a little bit scary because it's kind of like, okay, I've got no choice now. I need to make this work.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
this is where, like we were talking earlier, like your survival instincts start to kick in. Then it's a case of, okay, you know what? I need to make this work. I need to make money like this. I need to do this. And you start actually using your spare time to actually focus and hone in on your business, which is something that you can't do, in my opinion, wholeheartedly when you're working at the same time. So you know how you're saying like you couldn't do viewings and set up a HMO whilst being in a full-time job? It's very difficult to blend the two. What advice would you give to newbies that are just adamant that they want to quit straight away? Would you say go for it, or would you say take your time, relax, educate, and then maybe go for it?
It depends on their situation, financially especially, of course, and also what they do for a living. For me, it was really easy to leave because it was just a minimum wage job at a warehouse. Obviously, nobody enjoys that, and I didn't either. So it's not like I had a very well-paid job that I enjoyed, but I wanted to do property. It was something that I didn't enjoy and didn't pay well. So
yeah,
for me, it was a very easy decision. It might not be for someone else who has a good job. So it really depends.
It's a good point, and I think something just that you picked up and sort of just touched on there is that even though you quit your job, like you sort of start your business and you put your wholehearted like efforts into this business to make it work, but there's never really that time that you feel like you can really fully relax. Like even if you're chasing this dream of like financial freedom, the bigger you get, the more properties you take on, the more money you earn, the more responsibility you have. And then you're looking at different things like, okay, how can I systemize this so that I'm not as involved? So it's kind of weird because you're replacing one job with another job, which is your business. And then essentially you've got to put all your efforts in to make that work. And that's going to be the real test for newbies particularly. I wanted to touch on something, and it's also another question that's come in, is that you're quite big on social media and posting quite regularly on social media. So in terms of you post like 2-3 times a day, whether it be quotes, whether it be do lives, or it be videos of your properties. have you found that that's had a positive impact on yourself and also a positive impact on your business?
Yeah, definitely. For me, it has been a good effect on me because it made me be more focused and be more consistent, because I just really wanted to put out some content every day. So it has been good for practicing consistency, and it has been really good for raising finance, because I have an investor who I still haven't met before. I haven't met him in my life, and he's happy to fund any deals that I have.
Really?
Now or in the future, and he already did. So I'm not just taking his words for it, because we already worked together. So yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a common theme, and something that both of us agree on is that social media sometimes by businesses and individuals is underutilized, man. Like you said, put yourself out there as much as you can. Adam Rana said the same thing about raising finance. Ajay Sain said the same thing. And then obviously you've just touched on it now. In the more content you produce and the more you can put yourself out there, it's almost like even if people aren't obviously watching what you're doing, like and commenting, they're still seeing what you do, and it helps build a level of trust.
Yeah.
And the fact that you've got an investor there that's able to help fund future projects, it's just another little bit of an avenue that you can use in your property business, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's amazing. Another quick question, if you don't mind. In terms of what your goal is, so I've had a question come in. What would be your goal in terms of number of HMOs or in terms of amount of passive income? What would you be like, okay, this is a level that I want to reach, and then after that I can decide to scale up and take it to the next level?
Well, for rent to rent.
For rent, yeah.
My plan has always been that I don't want more than 8, because I was calculating this a lot, and 8 should give me enough cash flow to live on easily, the way I want. And then I would just move on to buy-to-lets probably.
Okay, so you've got other like strategies in mind. So this is kind of like a stepping stone or just like a form of income, and then you can use that to leverage up on deposits for buy-to-lets and other projects as well.
Yeah, and also this gave me the option to leave my job. So that was the first thing that I wanted, obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah, my plan was to have enough rent-to-rent HMOs by the end of 2020. Which is probably not going to happen, but because I already built some good relationships with agents and landlords, I know that deals are just, they will come. I don't really have to look for anymore, you know. So I'm not actively looking for new deals, because I know now that they will come anyway, which is...
It's good, man. It sounds like you're, even though obviously property in general has been fairly slow over the last couple of months because of that. But the fact that you're building a solid foundation to move forward is brilliant, man. I love it. So, bro, there's one question that I want to ask you, which is on everyone's lips, man. Is rent-to-rent passive income? I think that answers. I think that answers that question, man.
Yeah, probably.
How would you reply to someone that says, well, guys, I want a passive income from property, I want a passive income from rent to rent? What would you tell them?
Well, I would tell them to buy a HMO and give it to a rent-to-renter basically, because then it is going to be passive.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously for me it's not passive, because I do the management, I do the viewings. I have handyman, for example, who could help me out a lot.
Yeah.
So it's not like I have to physically be there all the time and there is some issue. But I think you just need to have more than just 1 or 2 rent-to-rent HMOs to be passive, because then you could just give it to a management company, you know.
Yeah.
But obviously you would have much less profit as well, so you have to calculate that as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's sound advice, to be honest with you. Get a couple more than just the 1 or 2 HMOs, and then like you said, then to be completely hands off is to hand it to a management company can take it, but they do take a massive cut in terms of your profit. So you've got to be okay with that.
Exactly.
So maybe take that into consideration when you're doing that. But the real version of passive income is to become the landlord that the renter takes a property from. So you need to be in a position to be able to buy them. I mean, that should be a strategy for people when they advance down the line, is buy a property and then give it to a renter, because then it is completely passive. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then you're kind of providing someone with an opportunity whilst you're taking passive income as well, man. That is the goal. Bro, I just want to say thank you very much for coming on the show, man. Like I said, this is your first ever podcast. And just to let you a little bit from me, man. So I've known you pretty much when I started. So I started back in July. So it was only 6 months after you. But I spent the time from January to July, obviously educating myself similarly to you. And I feel like we've got a lot of similarities in that respect. And we share a lot of the same views on a lot of topics. Obviously, we talk off camera all the time in terms of messages and everything. And obviously, United fans for life, man. But from moving from Hungary to the UK, obviously because of your passion for United, obviously moving to a place where your mate actually had a place next to Old Trafford is just almost meant to be. It's crazy. And then to understand even way before you came to the UK that, you know what, I don't feel quite right in terms of like the Hungarian culture, in terms of I don't want a job. I don't feel happy just settling for a job. I want to be entrepreneurial. There's something inside me that wants to run my own business, and I understand the principles of time freedom and financial freedom and what that can buy me to genuinely enjoy my life. And then, like I said, you picked up Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it's almost like everything just slotted into place. And for anyone that hasn't read that, it should be the starting point for everyone. I feel like it should be taught in school. It's just a phenomenal read. And then to go from that and just be open and honest about your journey, because the reason a lot of these guys that are going to be watching this know how much you hate ringing agents. They know how much you hate the rent-to-rent process, but you persist through, you soldier through, and you've always had this drive that's been a bit more than like, it's not a case of like, I'm forced to quit my job or I can't work, so I have to give this 100%. It's almost like that was always going to happen. It was just a case of, do I do it now or do I wait? And you've been patient enough to wait. And now you've got 2 rent-to-rents, you've got a couple more deals coming through, you understand the process and you can scale up to whatever level you want. Yeah. You also understand the importance of actually genuinely building wealth, man. You want to go into other strategies as well. So I just want to say, man, your future's going to be bright. And I know you will never see this, but a lot of people that reach out to you and follow you actually do find you a really like big inspiration. And not just from your property side as well. Like you've also... To go from a bet like, oh, I bet you can't not drink alcohol for like 30 days to how mentally strong you are. Like, guys, you don't understand. Like, even like before this podcast, I was like, do you want any like drinks or anything? Like, can I get you any like juices or anything like that? Just straight up water. You focus a lot on your health. You focus a lot on your fitness. And yeah, man, your future's going to be insanely bright. And I'm just glad that I get to be a part of it, man. And like I said, once football kicks off properly, man, we'll have to do a little United get together, man. So I just want to say, give me a little cheers, my bro. And is there any final words that you'd like to say before we close this show down?
Definitely not.
I think a lot of people watching this are probably not going to recognize you because they've seen you smiling. So I need to screenshot and capture that moment for sure. But no, I just want to say thank you very much for coming down.
Thanks for inviting me.
No problem, man. The pleasure was all mine. Guys, until next time, peace out.